Hey YouTubers, Mike Boards with the Mike Boards channel. Thank you for watching. Today we are talking Toyota, and we have an intermittent working starter. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. Sometimes it takes us 5 cranks of the key to actually engage the starter to start the engine. The last thing we want to do is procrastinate and get stranded somewhere. So let's replace this starter. Here is the Toyota Camry we will be working on. Let's hop in the vehicle and open up the hood. Hood is now open, and one of my favorite parts about these older style engines is the engine compartment. Part-wise, it's wide open, and all the parts are conveniently positioned for easy, efficient replacement. Right there is the starter, just to the right of the engine. Next step, we want to cut all electrical power to the engine. We need to remove this battery. Step 1, we are going to remove the negative terminal to the battery, and then the positive terminal to the battery. 10mm socket and ratchet. That same 10mm socket and ratchet, we are going to loosen up the bracket bar that secures the actual battery to the car. Loosen it there and down here. And once we loosen this up, we'll be able to pull this entire bar off. There's the lower screw. Let's go ahead and set this in a safe location where it does not drop into the engine and get lost. And you don't actually have to remove this nut all the way. Just loosen it up to a point. On the very bottom portion, you have a hook that connects this bar down to the lower bracket. Just by wiggling it, as you can see here, there's that hook. We can now pull this entire bar up and off. Securing bar is removed. On the front end of the securing bar, you have a relay and fuse box it's still connected to. So as you maneuver this bar off the battery, just be careful. And at this point, you can pull the entire battery up and out and set it in a safe location. Back to the engine, I have now repositioned the securing bar and the relay and fuse box to the side. And this little plastic base here, we are going to carefully remove this, and we are going to clean this before we put it back in. After removing that plastic cover, there are 3 10mm bolts here. We will grab that same socket and ratchet and we will remove those. All 3 10mm bolts are removed, the locking plate is released, and now we can shift this cruise control actuator entire mount wherever we need to. The next thing we need to do is remove this top portion of your air filter case, and you have these tabs here, 1 and 2, and then loosen up this clamp here, and you will remove the case from this hose. And on the bottom portion, you have an electrical connection point. That'll tab here, push in and pull off, and then 10mm bolt here, remove that. Bolt removed, bracket is off, and another hidden bolt right there. After removing that, one additional hose here. Carefully remove that and remove it from the upper hose. You now have access to pull this entire top portion case off, and we're going to remove that clean new filter as well. And we may get a vacuum and clean all that out. And the next part is a 14mm bolt here, and on the complete opposite side is an additional 14mm bolt. First bolt removed, now the opposite side. And obviously this one will be just slightly trickier than the first bolt, but just maneuver the ratchet and socket in place and just be careful and be patient as you remove it. And this bolt is very important. Don't drop it in the engine. It'll be tough to find. Check this out. After you break that bolt free, it may be easier just to take the actual ratchet off and put this down below on it and unscrew it that way. And again, be careful. Don't drop that bolt. Second bolt is removed. The whole purpose of that is to secure this portion of the starter as well as this bracket in place. Below this rubber boot is an electrical connection point, and be careful as you pull this off. The way to do it, there's a tab right here, push in, and at the same time you're pushing this tab right here in, you will shift this out. And now, unfortunately, I ran into a slight roadblock. I should have removed this lower case earlier. This starter needs this lower case to be removed in order to get enough space to pull this straight back and out. 3 10mm bolts here, remove those, remove this case. And after removing this case, I've got a 12mm socket and ratchet in place, a rubber boot on the lower portion of the starter. Pull that off and access the 12mm bolt. This is your power lead, as you can see. feeds the electrical power down to the starter. Let's go ahead and remove that. And it's just a nut, as you can see here. From here, we can pull this entire power lead off. And at this point, guess what, YouTubers? Nothing else is holding that starter in place. We can slowly and carefully remove this starter completely from the engine. And again, just be careful as you pull the starter out. You don't want to harm any of those lines or wires. And there it is, the old starter. Here's the new starter, and it's time to reverse the steps. We are going to take off that nut prior to actually positioning this starter back into the engine. Back at the engine, let's go ahead and reposition the new starter into place. New starter is repositioned in place, and now the lower portion power lead, let's go ahead and secure that. After securing the power lead nut, make sure you reposition this rubber boot over the nut. That rubber boot alleviates any moisture or corrosion from gathering on the power lead. From here, the 14mm bolts that we removed earlier, one there and the opposite side there, this is going to secure the starter to the engine. Both bolts upper and lower are now secure, and the electrical connection point down here, let's go ahead and reposition this in until it clicks. Just like that, you heard the click. After securing that electrical tab, we reposition the lower portion of the airbox case and secure the 3 10mm bolts, and then reposition the air filter. And if you haven't changed the filter and yours is dirty, it's a good time to change it. Now let's grab the upper portion case and secure it. Cover to the airbox is properly positioned, and a quick recap: secure the Phillips screw with the clamp, and the 10mm bolt down here secures the bracket here. Opposite side, you have the 10mm bolt here, the rubber hose, electrical connection point, push until it clicks, and the final two things are these little clips here. Next, you want to reposition the cruise control actuator plate in place, secure the 3 10mm bolts, and then the plastic tray table for the battery. We will position this back down in place, just like that. Let's go grab the battery. Battery is back into the car and properly secured. The 10mm bolt here that secures this portion of the bracket. On the back end, way down below, is that little hook, and it goes into a little hole. Secure this 10mm nut. And when it comes time to put on the battery cables, put on your red positive and make sure that it goes on the actual positive, and then the negative here for the negative. Now it's a good time to make sure you have no tools lying anywhere in this entire engine compartment. Got one here, I'll remove that. And obviously make sure you have no remaining bolts or nuts left to connect, because if you do, you miss something. Now it's time to hop in the car and try to start the engine. Inside the car now, and again, the original starter lasted 207,332 miles, and here goes the new one. And it started right up. That's it, YouTubers. See, a quick, friendly DIY do-it-yourself project, and we didn't even get that dirty. Hey, do us a favor, below the video you will see that thumbs up icon. Click on that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely go to your settings, turn on your YouTube notification bell. Once you do that, every video that we upload, you will be notified. You will be able to stay up to date with us, and that will be awesome. Thanks again.